My name is Marguerite Adelaide Thornwood, and this is the story of how I lost everything I'd built over 37 years of marriage, only to reclaim it all with a single dusty envelope I found hidden in my mother-in-law's attic. What started as the darkest chapter of my life became the sweetest revenge I could have ever imagined. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, this story is for you. Stay with me. Because what I discovered in that envelope didn't just change my life, it exposed secrets that destroyed the people who tried to destroy me. The perfect life, or so I thought. It was March 15th, 2023, when my world came crashing down. But let me take you back to where it all began. I met Harrison Thornwood in the spring of 1986 at a charity gala in Greenwich, Connecticut. He was charming, successful, and came from old money, the kind of family whose name appeared on hospital wings and museum plaques. I was a 24-year-old elementary school teacher from a middle-class family in Ohio, completely out of my depth in his world of country clubs and summer homes in Martha's Vineyard. Harrison swept me off my feet. Within 6 months, we were married in a lavish ceremony at his family's estate, a sprawling $3.5 million mansion called Thornwood Manor, with 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, and grounds that seemed to stretch endlessly. His mother, Constance Thornwood, a formidable woman with pearls permanently affixed to her neck and ice in her veins, made it clear from day one that I wasn't good enough for her son.
Thank you for this
Harrison
generous
defended
gift,
me,
sweetie.
or
The family
so I
is
believed.
so excited.
We had
You've
3
always
children.
had the biggest heart.
Victoria,
Love you
born
so
in
much.
1988,
The coffee
a
turned
brilliant
cold
girl
as
who
Maya's
got into
mind
Yale
raced
just like her
backward to the
father.
previous week.
Marcus, born
The
in
family group
1991,
chat,
who
Chen
inherited
Family
his
Paradise
father's business acumen,
2026,
and
that
our
her mother had
youngest,
created
Sophie,
without
born
asking.
in
The
1995,
awkward Zoom call
a
where
free
Maya had
spirit
tried
who
to clarify
dreamed of
that she
being
hadn't
an artist.
volunteered to
I
fund
gave up
anyone's
my
vacation.
teaching career to raise them,
Tickets are
to
running
create
about
the perfect home,
$900 each,
to be the
her mother
perfect
had
wife.
announced during that call.
For
Her
37
tone
years,
sugary, but
I
her
played my
eyes
role flawlessly.
calculating.
I hosted dinner
Anyone who
parties
can't
for
afford
Harrison's
their
business
share will have to
associates,
sit this one
organized
out.
charity events,
Then had
volunteered
come the
at the
pointed
children's
comment,
schools,
Maya,
and
honey,
managed
you're the
every
only
detail
one
of
without
our
a spouse
household.
or
I
children
thought
to
we
worry
were
about.
happy.
You must have
I thought
so
he
much
loved me.
extra money.
I was a fool.
Maya
The
had sent
betrayal
a
on March
private message
15th,
afterward.
2023,
Mom, I need to be
I
clear,
returned home
I'm
early
not
from a
paying for
doctor's
anyone's
appointment.
tickets.
I'd been
Rachel's
feeling
response had
exhausted
been
for weeks,
immediate.
and my
Oh,
physician
sweetheart,
wanted
you're
to run some
confused again.
tests.
You
As I
promised Dad
walked
at
through the
Christmas
front
dinner.
door of
Don't you
Thornwood
remember?
Manor, I heard laughter coming from
complete
Harrison's
fabrication.
steady female
Maya
laughter
hadn't
that
even
wasn't from
attended
any of our
Christmas dinner.
staff.
She'd been
I should
working
have
on a
knocked.
year-end
I should
audit
have
in Portland.
announced myself.
Now,
Instead,
staring
I
at
quietly pushed open the door.
$13,260
There was
in
my
fraudulent
husband of
charges,
37 years,
Maya reached
my
for her
Harrison,
phone with steady
entangled with a woman
The
who couldn't have
confrontation.
been older than our daughter
Fraud
Victoria.
department, please.
She was perched
Maya
on his
said into
desk,
her phone,
her blouse
voice
unbuttoned,
eerily calm,
his hands on
despite
her
the
waist.
adrenaline
They were
coursing
so
through her
absorbed
veins.
in each other that
The
they
bank
didn't
representative
even notice me
listened
standing there for
patiently
a
as
full
Maya
10
recited the
seconds.
details with
When Harrison
professional
finally
precision.
saw me, he
When
didn't
asked
scramble
if she
to
knew
explain.
who might
He
have made
didn't
the
look
charges,
ashamed.
Maya
He looked
paused for
annoyed,
only a
as if I
heartbeat.
were inconvenience
Yes,
interrupting his
this is
afternoon
identity theft
entertainment.
committed
Marguerite,
by my mother.
he said calmly,
The words
straightening
felt
his tie.
surreal
We
leaving her
need to
lips.
talk. The woman,
Miss
her
Chen,
name was
because
Amber.
you've identified
I
the
later
perpetrator,
learned
we'll
a
need you to file a
28-year-old
police
paralegal from
report
his
to
firm
proceed
grabbed
with the
her
dispute.
things and scurried out
Maya
without
closed
meeting
her
my
eyes,
eyes.
thinking
I stood
of the
frozen, my purse
$61,000
still
in
hanging
student
from my
loans
arm.
she'd
My
eliminated
car
through
keys
3
clutched in my
years of
trembling
brutal
hand.
budgeting.
How long?
The
I
apartment she'd
whispered.
finally
Does
been
it
able to
matter?
afford.
Harrison
The
poured
emergency
himself a
fund she'd
scotch.
built from nothing.
His back to me.
And the 3
Marguerite,
business class
we've
tickets.
grown apart.
Not $900
You must have
economy
felt it
seats, as
too.
her mother had
Answer
told
me.
the family,
How long?
but
He turned, and the coldness in his
each.
eyes made me realize I
understand,
was
she
looking at a
said.
stranger.
I'll
3
file the
years.
report this morning.
But there have been others.
Within
others.
minutes
The
of ending
word
the call,
echoed
the
in my
airline
mind like
contacted
a
her
death
parents
knell.
about the
While
fraud
I was
flag.
caring
The
for his
tickets were
ailing mother,
immediately canceled.
while I was
Her
organizing
phone
his birthday
exploded with
parties,
messages.
while I
Mom,
was pretending
what have you done?
everything
The
was
airline
perfect.
just called us.
He'd been
Dad,
betraying me
call
again
your mother
and
immediately.
again.
Fix
I
this
want a divorce.
now.
He said
Mom,
matter-of-factly,
we've told everyone
my
about this
lawyer
trip.
will
You
contact
can't
you tomorrow.
humiliate us like
The
this.
nightmare began.
Maya
Harrison's
set
lawyer
the phone
contacted
down
me the
and watched
very
through her
next
window
day.
as her
His
father's
name
black
was Gerald
SUV
Pemberton,
screeched
a shark
into the
in a
parking lot below,
three-piece suit who
tires
built his
squealing as he
reputation
parked
destroying wives
diagonally
in divorce
across
court.
2
The terms
spaces.
Harrison proposed were
She knew
insulting.
what was coming.
I
The
would leave Thornwood
intimidation,
Manor
the
with a
shouting,
small settlement
the
of
manipulation tactics they'd
$200,000,
perfected
barely
over
enough to buy a
decades.
modest
But
apartment
something
while he retained
fundamentally had
everything else.
shifted
The
inside her.
house,
She
The
stood up,
vacation properties,
smoothed her shirt,
the
and checked that her
investment
phone's recording
portfolio,
app was
the
running.
art collection I'd
Washington
spent
was a
decades curating,
one-party
everything.
consent state.
But what
Time
devastated
to
me
face her
most
father,
was the children.
not as a daughter,
He wants
but as
full
a
custody.
victim
I
with
asked my
evidence
own
in
lawyer,
hand.
Dorothy Chen,
The
a kind woman
investigation.
who'd come highly recommended,
Midnight
but seemed
found Maya
overwhelmed
hunched
by
over her
Pemberton's
laptop,
aggressive tactics.
unable to sleep,
He's
with
claiming you're
betrayal
unstable.
pressing down on
Dorothy
her chest
said gently,
like a physical
sliding
weight.
a document
The
across her
forgotten
desk.
AOL account
He's had
stared
you
back at her
followed,
from
Marguerite.
multiple recovery
He's
screens.
documented every
Gmail,
time you've seemed
Amazon,
erratic over the
credit
past
card portal,
6 months.
bank accounts.
I stared at the
Her mother had
papers
quietly
in disbelief.
added it to
There were photos
everything
of
over
me
the
crying
years,
in my car
waiting,
after discovering the
always
affair.
waiting for
Notes
the
about
right
how I'd
moment,
lost
Maya
weight
thought
and
bitterly.
appeared haggard. Statements
She began scrolling
from
through
Harrison's
months of bank
friends
statements,
claiming
and
I'd become
gradually
paranoid
a pattern
and
emerged.
controlling even
Small
my own
test
children.
charges.
Had
A
given
$16.99
depositions stating they
transaction
were
at a grocery
concerned
store she'd
about
never
mother's
visited.
mental
A
state.
$28.50
They're lying,
gas
I
station charge
whispered.
in
All of
Tacoma
them,
when she'd
I
been home
believe
in
you,
Seattle.
Dorothy said.
Each one
But Harrison
just
has
small enough to
resources we
escape
don't.
notice.
He's spent
Her
months
phone buzzed
building
with,
this case,
"Dad,
and
you'd
with
better
his
reverse
family's
this by
connections,
tomorrow. Your mother
she didn't
is
need
devastated."
to finish. I understood.
Maya
In
ignored
Connecticut's
it,
family
opening a
courts,
spreadsheet
money
instead.
talked, and
Dates,
Harrison had all the
times,
money.
amounts.
The divorce proceedings were
Transforming her
brutal.
hurt into
Harrison's
data,
legal team
her
portrayed
betrayal
me
into
as an
evidence.
unstable,
An email
clingy
notification
wife who
appeared.
never
Aunt
contributed
Susan
anything of
forwarding a
value to the
family
marriage.
message
They
from her
claimed
mother.
I'd manipulated
"So
Harrison
sorry,
into
everyone, but our
marrying me,
family trip
that
might
I'd been
be canceled.
after his
The
money from the
economy
beginning.
tickets,
They
$900
even brought up
each,
my
are
working
selling
class
out, and
background,
Maya's having some
suggesting
kind of
I'd
breakdown
never
about
truly
helping
fit into
family.
Harrison's
Please keep
world.
her in
My
prayers.
children, my own babies, testified
Maya laughed
against me.
bitterly.
Victoria,
Business class
cool and
at
composed in a designer suit,
$4,420 versus
stated that she'd
economy
always
at
found me
$900.
overly emotional
A
and difficult. Marcus
$10,560
claimed I'd
difference her
been
mother
controlling and
conveniently
suffocating
failed to
throughout
mention.
his childhood. Only
Then
Sophie
Maya
seemed
noticed the
conflicted.
email thread below.
But even she agreed
Messages
with
she
her
wasn't
siblings
meant to
under
see.
her father's
Aunt
watchful
Susan
eye.
hadn't
The
realized they
worst
were
part,
included in the
Constance
forward.
Thorne would sat in the
Rachel,
courtroom every
we need
single
to
day.
book before she
Her
changes
thin
her
lips
mind.
curved in a
Once the
satisfied
charge is
smile,
clear, she
watching
won't
me
make a
be
scene.
torn apart.
She hates
On August 3rd,
confrontation.
2023, Judge
credit
Harold
limit is high
Matthews
enough for
delivered
3
his verdict.
tickets.
Harrison
Rachel,
was
she's
granted
been
full
working
custody
overtime
of
for
our
18
adult
months.
children's
Trust me,
allegiance
she
and
has the
assets.
credit.
I was
She'll
awarded a
cave once
settlement
it's
of
done. She always does.
$180,000,
Family
even
guilt
less
is
than
her
initially
weakness.
offered, and
Maya
ordered to
pushed back
vacate
from her
Thornwood
desk,
Manor within 30
nauseous.
days. The
They
house,
planned this
the life
for
I
months,
built,
studying
the
her
family I
finances,
devoted myself to,
identifying
all
her
gone.
vulnerabilities,
I left the
discussing
courthouse
her
that
as
day
though
a
she were
broken
an
woman.
ATM
I had
rather
no
than
home,
their daughter.
no family, no purpose.
"This was never
At
about
61
money,"
years old,
she said aloud to
I
her
was
empty
starting
apartment.
over with
"It's
nothing.
about control."
The turning point, he moved
She
into
reached
a
for her
small
phone and
apartment in
systematically
Stanford,
locked
a far
down
cry
every
from the
account.
mansion I'd called
Two-factor
home.
authentication,
My days blurred
login
together in a
notifications,
haze of
new
grief and
passwords,
confusion.
random
How had
strings no
everything
family
gone
member
so
could
wrong?
guess,
How had I
security
not
questions
seen
with
this
nonsense
coming? Then,
answers,
on
a new
September
email
12th,
address with the username bearing
2023,
no
I
connection to
received
her
a phone
personal
call
life.
that changed
Each
everything.
new security
Mrs.
measure felt
Thornwood.
like
This
reclaiming
is
a piece
Patricia
of
Bailey
herself.
from Evergreen Senior Living.
family
I'm
meeting.
calling about Constance Thornwood.
5 days after
My
the
heart
incident,
sank.
Maya
Despite
parked 3
everything,
houses down
I'd
from Aunt
spent years
Susan's
caring for
colonial
Harrison's
home.
mother.
She was
Is she
precisely
alright?
on time.
She
Not
passed
early
away
enough to be
peacefully
cornered
last
alone,
night.
not late
Patricia
enough to be
said gently,
accused of
I'm
drama.
so sorry
The
for your
recording
loss.
device in her
She
phone was
left
tested and ready.
instructions that
She
you
checked
were
her
to be
reflection in the
contacted.
rearview mirror,
She wanted
adjusting
you
her
to have
expression
something
into
from her
what her
personal
colleagues called
effects.
her
This made no
analyst
sense.
face.
Constance had
Neutral,
despised me.
composed,
Why would she
revealing
leave me
nothing.
anything? 3 days
The
later,
moment she
I
entered
drove
Aunt
to the
Susan's
nursing
living
home
room,
where Constance
14
had
pairs
spent
of
her
eyes
final years.
locked onto her.
Patricia, a
The room
warm
fell
woman
silent.
in her 50s,
They were arranged
led
in a
me to a small
semicircle like a
office and
tribunal.
handed me a
In
sealed
the
manila
center
envelope
sat
with my
Rachel,
name written
tissues
in Constance's
clutched
spidery
dramatically in one
handwriting.
hand,
She
mascara
gave this to me 6
artfully
months ago.
smudged.
Patricia
Robert stood
explained.
near the door,
She made me
arms
promise
crossed,
to give it to you
blocking
if
the
anything
exit.
happened to her,
The message was
and
clear.
only to you.
No one
She was
leaves
quite
until this is
insistent.
resolved.
My hand
"She's
shook
here,"
as I opened
Aunt
the
Susan
envelope.
announced, her
Inside
voice
was a
tight.
letter and a
She
small
gestured
key.
to an
The
empty
letter
chair
read,
positioned
Marguerite,
directly across
if
from
you're
Rachel.
reading this, I'm
Maya
dead,
sat,
which
placing
means
her
I can
folder on her
finally
lap,
tell you the
and
truth.
waited.
I never
The first
liked you.
rule of
You
financial
were to kind to
Let the
genuine
subject
to good
talk.
for my son.
People
but
reveal
that's
their own
exactly why you
inconsistencies
didn't
better
deserve
than
what
you
he
ever
did
could.
to you. 6 months ago,
Honey,
Harrison
all
came
so
to me and
concerned
told
about
me
you,
his plan.
Rachel began,
He'd been
her
setting
voice
you up for
trembling
years,
with practiced
preparing to
vulnerability.
divorce you and take everything.
Maya remained
He
silent.
laughed about it.
I don't
Marguerite.
know what's happening
He
with
laughed
her,
about
she
how he
continued,
convinced
addressing
the
the
children
room.
to turn
Her job
against
stress
you,
has been
how
building
he'd
for
manipulated
months.
the courts,
The pressure is
how
affecting
he'd
her
make sure
memory.
you'd end up with nothing.
Maya's cousin
I've
Brandon
done
leaned
terrible
forward.
things in
Maya,
my life,
your
but I
mom
won't let
says
my
you've been
son
forgetting
destroy a woman
conversations,
who devoted
making
her best years
promises
to
you
our
don't
family.
remember?
In my attic at the
Financial
estate,
stress
the main
does
house.
terrible things
Not
to
the
the
manner
mind,
there's a
Aunt
locked
Susan
trunk.
added,
The
on
key
cue.
is enclosed.
Maya noticed her
Inside,
father's
you'll
shifting
find
position,
documents
moving
that will change
slightly closer
everything.
to the door.
I should have been
Classic
kinder to you.
intimidation
I should have
positioning.
protected you.
Do you
This
understand
is the only
how much
amends
you've
I
hurt
can
your
make Doc
mother?
go to the
Her
attic.
19-year-old
Use
cousin
the
Melissa
key.
asked,
Destroy
voice
my son the way he
dripping
tried
with
to destroy
righteous
you.
indignation.
Constantive
We just
discovered me
want to
heart was pounding
understand,
as
said
I drove
Rachel,
to the Thornwood
voice
family
breaking
estate in
perfectly.
Greenwich. The
You
main
seemed so
house
happy
was a
to help
smaller
with the
property
family trip.
that
Then
Constance
suddenly,
had owned
she
separately
dabbed at
from the
dry
manor
eyes.
place
You
where
called
she'd
the
lived
police.
before moving to the nursing
Maya
home.
opened her folder
Harrison
and
had
removed the
never
credit card
bothered to
statements.
sell it,
She passed
probably
copies to
planning
Aunt
to do
Susan and
so
Uncle
after
Thomas, the
settling her
family's
affairs.
de facto
I still
leaders.
had my old key. The
These are my
house
statements
was
showing
dusty
3
and silent,
charges of
frozen in time. I climbed the narrow
each,
stairs to the
totaling
attic, my legs shaking,
$13,260,
clutching the small
made
brass
at
key Constance
2:47
had
a.m.
left
while
me.
I was
The
asleep.
trunk was exactly where she
Her voice
described
remained
it,
professional,
covered
as
in
if
dust
presenting
and
findings
cobwebs.
to a
The
client.
key turned smoothly
Uncle
in the
Thomas's
lock,
eyes,
and
they
when
were
I lifted
purchased
the lid,
after my
I
Gmail
guessed
password
inside
was
were
changed,
dozens
using
of
the
folders,
recovery email,
each meticulously labeled with dates spanning
rchen.mama@aol.com.
decades. I pulled out the first
police
one,
report number
dated
is
1985, the year before
#947KJ,
Harrison
if
and I
anyone
met
would
Dot.
like
It
to
was a
verify.
police report. Harrison
Thomas's eyes
Thornwood,
widened.
each 24,
Business
arrested
class.
for assault.
Rachel said
the case had
economy
been
was already
dismissed
stretching
after
the
the
budget.
Thornwood family made
That's
a
not,
substantial
Rachel began,
donation
but
to the
Aunt Susan
victim's family
interrupted.
and the local police
Rachel,
department.
last year
I
you
grabbed
helped me set
another
up my
folder,
online
financial
utility payments.
documents showing
She
Harrison
paused, pieces
had
clicking into
embezzled
place.
$1 million
After
from
that,
his
there was a
own father's
$2,600
company in
charge for a roof repair I
1993.
never
Constance
authorized.
had covered it
The
up.
room
Another
temperature seemed to drop.
evidence that Harrison
Jennifer
had
looked up from the
plagiarized
statements,
his
face
Harvard
pale.
senior thesis.
Last summer,
Constance
when you
had
borrowed
paid
my
off
card
the
because your
professor.
purse was stolen,
There were
there was
dozens
a
of these
$1,200
folders
charge from a
spanning
dental
decades.
clinic I
Each
never
one
visited.
documented a crime,
Rachel
a
laughed,
scandal,
the sound
a betrayal that the Thornwood family had
Everyone
buried
makes
with their
mistakes
money
with online
and
payments.
influence.
You can't
But
possibly
3 folders
think.
made my blood run
I think we
cold.
should all check
The
our
first,
statements, Aunt
dated
Susan said firmly,
2020,
pulling out her
contained proof that Harrison
Robert
had been
stepped away from the
having an
door,
affair
anger
with
replacing
Amber the
intimidation.
paralegal for
This
not
is family
3 years,
business. You're all
as he'd
overreacting.
admitted, but nearly
A
4.
misunderstanding
But that
of
wasn't the shocking part.
$13,260?
The shocking part
Uncle
was
Thomas
that
asked
Amber
quietly.
wasn't just any paralegal.
Maya's parents
She
exchanged
was
glances.
Gerald
Rachel
Pemberton's
stood
niece,
abruptly.
Harrison's lawyer's
We should
niece,
discuss this
the
at home,
same
Robert.
lawyer who
As they
destroyed me
moved
in
toward the
court.
door, Uncle
The
Thomas blocked
collusion
their
was
path.
obvious.
I
Pemberton
think we
had
need
helped
answers
Harrison
first.
set me up from
Maya
the inside,
connected her phone to
probably
Aunt Susan's
feeding him
Bluetooth
strategy
speaker.
to ensure
You don't
I'd
have to
lose
believe me.
everything.
Believe
It was
Dad.
a conflict of
She
interest,
pressed play.
so
Her
egregious
father's voice
that it would
filled the room.
invalidate the entire divorce.
We've used Aunt
proceedings.
Susan's card
The
before.
second
Nobody
folder
said anything.
contained
She knows
financial
how these things
records
work in a
proving
family.
Harrison had been
Rachel's face
systematically
turned
hiding
white.
assets
Robert
throughout our
froze,
marriage,
hearing his own
offshore accounts
admission
in the
played
Cayman
back.
Islands,
That's not
properties
what I
in
meant,
other
he
names,
stammered, but the
investments
damage was
hidden
done.
behind shell corporations.
One by one,
the fortune
family
I'd been
members began
told
sharing
we'd built
similar
together,
stories.
he'd been
3
stealing from it for
generations of victims
decades,
comparing
squirreling
notes.
away money
Patterns
where
emerging
I'd
across
never find
2
it.
decades
The
of
actual marital
manipulation.
estate wasn't worth
Maya's
$8
parents
million,
retreated to the
as
corner,
claimed
their
in court.
carefully
It was
constructed
worth
facade
over
crumbling as
$47 million.
former allies stepped away.
But the third folder,
I'm sorry I
the third
doubted
folder
you,
was
Aunt
dynamite.
Susan said
It
quietly to
contained
Maya.
evidence that in
I'll testify if you need me
1998,
to, Uncle
Harrison
Thomas
had
added,
been
his attorney
involved in a
mind
drunk
already
driving
cataloging the
accident that
evidence.
killed a young woman
Rachel's
named
tears
Rebecca
had
Martinez,
vanished, replaced by
the
cold
23-year-old
calculation
mother of
as she
2.
searched for an
Harrison
escape
had been
route.
driving home from a
Robert's
business
bluster
dinner,
deflated
drunk,
as
and
he
had
watched
run
his
a red
intimidation
light.
tactics fail
Rebecca
for the first
died
time.
at the scene. The
How could
Thornwood
you
family had
record
paid
me?
off the police
Robert finally
investigators,
managed.
the medical
Washington is a
examiner,
one-party
and
consent
Rebecca's
state.
grieving
Only
husband.
one person in
They
a
framed the
conversation
accident
needs
as
to
mechanical
consent.
failure.
I
Rebecca's
consented.
husband, desperate
We
and
need to
drowning
establish
in medical debt from his wife's funeral, had accepted a settlement of $500,000 in exchange for his silence. Harrison had quite literally gotten away with murder, and Constance had kept every single document, every payoff receipt,
2 days later,
every
Maya
piece
spotted
of
them in
evidence.
the company parking
She'd
lot.
been insurance.
Her parents'
I
silver
realized
Mercedes, the
she'd
one with
kept this
3 years
evidence
of
to
payments
control her
remaining,
son, to
idled
make
near
sure
her
he
reserved
never
space
crossed her.
despite the
But
mild
in
morning.
the end, She chose to give it to me. The confrontation he spent the next week making copies of everything. I consulted with Dorothy, who nearly fell out of her chair when she saw what I found.
Honey, we need
She
to talk.
immediately contacted the
Maya
Connecticut Bar
continued walking.
Association about
Rachel pulled
Pemberton's
out papers
conflict
from
of
her
interest
designer
and
purse.
began preparing
Bank
motions to
letterheads,
invalidate the divorce.
home equity
But I wanted
applications,
more than just my
401k
assets back.
withdrawal
I
forms.
wanted Harrison to pay
The
for
bank is
everything
demanding
he'd done, not just to me, but to
$13,260
Rebecca
by month's
Martinez
end,
and
Rachel
her
said,
family.
voice dropping.
On September
Just need you
28,
to make one call to the
2023,
fraud
I
department.
walked into
Tell them you
Harrison's
made a
office
mistake.
at Thornwood Financial
We'll pay
Group.
you back.
His
Robert
secretary
added, eyes
tried to
darting
stop
toward the
me,
building.
but
We
I
swear.
brushed past her and
You
threw
know I
open the
can't
door
do
to his
that, Maya
private
replied
office.
flatly.
Harrison
Filing
looked up
a
from his
false
desk,
police
his
report
expression
is a crime.
shifting from surprise to annoyance.
Rachel stepped closer.
Marguerite,
Think
what
about
are you
this
doing
means.
here?
Your father
You're
and I
not
might
supposed
not
to.
be at Thanksgiving
Shut up.
or Christmas.
I'd never
You'll
spoken
be all
to him
alone.
like that
Is
in
that what you
37
want?
years of marriage.
Several
The shock
coworkers
on his
passed by,
face
casting
was
curious
almost
glances.
worth everything
Your
I'd
choice
been through.
affects
I
all of
found
us,
your
Robert
mother's
said,
trunk.
voice
The
hardening.
color drained
What
from
will your
his
cousins
face.
think?
What trunk?
Rachel's
I don't
eyes
know
narrowed.
what you're.
What about
don't.
your work
I
friends?
placed a folder
I'd
on his
hate
desk.
for them to get
This
dragged
is
into our
just a
family
copy.
drama.
I
She
have
nodded
the
toward the
original
building.
somewhere
People
safe,
talk,
along with
especially
copies that
about
will go to the
ungrateful
police,
daughters who
the district
abandon
attorney,
their parents.
and the Connecticut Bar Association
threat
if
hung in the
anything
air.
happens to me.
You're
His hands
almost
trembled
30,
as he opened
Maya.
the folder.
No
I watched
husband,
him scan the
no
documents,
children.
the financial
We're
fraud,
all you
the
have.
hidden
Family
assets,
sticks
and
together.
finally, the evidence of
For a
Rebecca
split
Martinez's
second,
death.
doubt crept
Where
in.
did you get
Empty
these?
holiday
He
tables,
whispered, your
office
mother.
gossip,
Turns
the
out she
crushing
hated
weight
what
of
you'd
being the
become
one who
even
severed
more than she
ties.
disliked me. I
But
leaned
then Maya
forward,
remembered
my
the
hands flat
recording,
on his
the
desk.
bank statements,
Here's
the
what's
pattern
going to
spanning
happen.
years,
Harrison,
the
you're going to contact your lawyer. You're
$13,260 stolen
unethical,
while she slept.
corrupt liar, and you're going
She
to
looked
instruct him
directly
to file
into her
new
mother's
divorce
eyes,
papers.
then her
Papers
father's,
that give me
and said,
60% of
"You
the
don't
actual
owe
marital
me.
estate,
You owe the
including
bank.
the manor.
Get out
You're
of my
going to
way."
issue public apologies
Rachel's
to me
maternal
and
mask
our
dropped
children for your
completely, revealing
manipulation.
something
And you're
ugly
going to
beneath.
establish
You
a
think
trust
you've won,
fund of
she
$5
hissed,
million
voice rising.
for Rebecca
You will regret
Martinez's
this.
children.
You will
who are
never
now
have a
adults
family again.
and
You
still
will
struggling
die
financially because
alone,
their
you
mother was killed by a
ungrateful
drunk driver
child.
who was never held
Her
accountable.
words echoed
You
across the
can't
parking
prove.
lot.
I can
Coworkers
prove
froze,
all
staring
of it.
openly.
Every single piece
Robert
of
grabbed
evidence
Rachel's
is
arm, whispering
documented,
urgently,
dated,
"Rachel, stop.
and verified.
People are watching."
The statute of limitations
Maya walked past
hasn't
them without
expired on
looking
the
back,
vehicular
leaving her parents
manslaughter.
frozen in the
Harrison,
parking lot as
you
morning
could
sun
still go to
illuminated the
prison.
ruins of
You
their
probably
carefully
should go to
constructed
prison.
facade.
I straightened up.
3 days
but
later,
I'm not
a
a cruel
certified letter
person,
arrived at their
unlike
address.
you. Do what
Maya's
I've asked,
attorney name
and these
embossed across the
documents
top,
stay
the words
sealed.
"cease and
Refuse,
desist" bold
and I'll
beneath.
destroy you so
The bank
completely
began
that you'll
collections
wish I
proceedings
just
directly
turned you
with
into
Robert
the
and
police.
Rachel Chen,
The children,
no longer
the
Maya's
children will
problem.
know the truth about who their
Rebuilding.
father really is.
4 months
I have
later,
evidence
Maya
of how
stood at her
you
kitchen
manipulated
window,
them,
morning
coached
sunlight
them,
filtering
lied
through
to
new
them.
privacy
They're going
blinds
to hate you,
as she waited for her
Harrison,
coffee to brew.
just like I do.
Her
The
apartment had
reckoning Harrison
transformed from a
didn't have a
space she
choice,
merely
and he
occupied
knew it.
into a
Within
genuine
week,
sanctuary.
his lawyer filed a
security
motion to
system
set
panel
aside
glowed
the
steadily
divorce
by the
judgment
door,
based
a
on
reminder
newly
that she
discovered
controlled who
evidence
entered
of
her life
fraud
now.
and misconduct.
Her desk
Gerald
held
Pemberton
neatly
was
organized
suspended
folders
from
for the
practicing
financial
law
literacy
pending
workshop she had been
investigation
developing.
into the conflict
Her
of
calendar
interest
showed
with
next
his niece.
Tuesday circled in
The
red.
court proceedings moved
Debt-free
quickly.
celebration.
Judge Matthews,
The final car payment
upon
had cleared
reviewing the
yesterday.
evidence of
Her
Harrison's
phone
hidden
chimed with a
assets
message from
and the
David.
collusion between
Credit score
Harrison
hit
and his
665
attorney,
today.
was
Thank you,
furious.
Em.
He ordered
She
a
smiled,
complete
remembering his
forensic
face when
accounting
she had
of
offered to
all
help him
Thornwood
rebuild after
assets.
their parents had
On
destroyed
November
his credit.
17th, 2023,
Another text from cousin Jennifer
we were back
asking
in court
about
for
Sunday
the
dinner
new
at Aunt
settlement hearing.
Susan's.
This time,
new family,
Harrison sat
based on
defeated at his
choice rather
table
than
while I
obligation,
sat confidently
felt
at
more
mine.
real than the
Judge
old one
Matthews
ever
deliver
had.
his ruling.
Maya
In
opened
my
her
30
banking
years
app.
on the bench,
Credit score.
I have
Excellent.
never seen such a
825.
calculated,
She remembered hiding
malicious
this number
attempt
from
to
her
defraud a
parents, knowing
spouse.
that they'd see it as an
Mr.
asset to
Thornwood,
exploit
you
rather than an
systematically hid
achievement
assets,
to respect.
colluded with your
Her
attorney,
doorbell
and
rang
manipulated
precisely
your
at
own
9
children to
a.m.
perpetrate
David
a
stood there
fraud
grinning,
on
holding
this
up his
court.
phone, displaying his
Mrs.
credit
Thornwood
report.
is awarded
"I didn't believe it would
60%
work,"
of the
he
marital
said, following
estate,
inside.
including
"Dad always said
primary
credit was
residence
just
at
something you
Thornwood
used
Manor.
until you couldn't
Additionally,
anymore."
Mr. Thornwood
That's
will
what
pay
they needed to
spousal
leave.
support of
Maya replied, pouring him
$25,000
coffee.
per month for the
Financial
rest
literacy
of
isn't
Mrs.
magic, it's
Thornwood's
just
life.
work and consistency.
Furthermore, Mr. Thornwood
He nodded,
is
settling into
ordered
what
to
had become his
establish
chair.
a trust fund
The
as
kids'
described
college
in
funds
the
are set up.
settlement agreement.
First time I've saved
the
money in
actual
my
marital
life.
estate was
How does
worth
it feel?
$47 million.
Weird, he laughed.
60% was over $28
Tomorrow,
million.
Maya would lead her fourth
plus
financial
the manor.
literacy
High I'd gone from having $180,000 and nothing else to being wealthier than I'd ever imagined. But the money wasn't the sweetest
Turning
part.
her pain into
The
protection
aftermath,
for others gave
Rebecca
purpose to what
Martinez's
happened.
revelation couldn't be
Her boss
kept
had
quiet.
called yesterday about
Someone
the
in
senior
the
analyst
courthouse leaked the
position.
documents
Apparently,
to the
her
press.
handling of the
And
fraud
within
case
days,
had demonstrated
Harrison's
exceptional
drug-driving
integrity under
cover-up
pressure.
was front-page news.
Life
The
was
Connecticut
reshaping
District
itself in
Attorney,
unexpected
facing
ways.
public pressure,
That
reopened the
evening, Maya wrote in
investigation.
her journal,
While the statute
"You
of
cannot love
limitations
without
had technically
respect.
expired
You
on
cannot
vehicular
respect
manslaughter,
without boundaries.
Harrison faced
Some
charges
lessons
for
are worth
obstruction
every
of
penny they
justice
cost
and
to learn."
conspiracy to
She
commit
closed the
fraud
journal
crimes
thinking
with
of the
no
family dinner
statute
on
of
Sunday,
limitations
just 5 of
when
them,
they
the ones
involved
who'd
covering
chosen
up a
truth
death.
over
In
comfortable
March
lies.
2024,
To
he was
family we
convicted and
choose, not
sentenced to
family
6
we
years in
tolerate.
prison.
The words had
Forward
become their
financial group
unofficial motto,
collapsed within
and
months.
for the first
Investors
time in her
fled,
life,
clients
Maya
canceled
understood
contracts,
what
and
real
Harrison's
family
reputation was destroyed.
Epilogue.
The company he'd
meant. The
inherited
bank
from
eventually
his father,
settled with Robert
the
and Rachel
legacy
Chen
he'd
for
valued
a
above
fraction of the
everything,
debt after they
was
declared
liquidated to
bankruptcy.
pay legal fees
Their house
and
sold at a
restitution.
loss. The Mercedes
As for
was
my children,
repossessed.
the truth
Maya never
was harder
spoke to
for
her
them
parents
to
again.
swallow. I
Not out of
invited each of them to
vindictiveness,
lunch
but out of
separately
the
and
simple
showed them
recognition
the
that
evidence,
love
not the
without
criminal
respect
matters,
is
but
just
the documents
manipulation
proving
wearing a
how
mask.
their father had manipulated
Some
them against me.
relationships
The
cost more
coach
to keep
testimony,
than they're
the
worth to
lies he
lose.
told them about
And
my mental
sometimes
state,
the
the way he
bravest thing you can
systematically
do
turned them into
is simply
weapons
let
against
them
their
go.
own mother.